You special and she reckless. Remember, you're my bestest friend. Yeah, she my.
Hey my people, it's your girl B. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I am joined once more by
Tandega.
Yeah, and we are carrying on from the first part series on how to come to Korea. Oh yeah, this time she said it right and I said it wrong. Okay, how to come to South Korea. Okay, or how to get a teaching job in South Korea. Remember, just to make this clear, I am going to speak about public school, which is coming via EPIK, and she's going to speak about
Hagwons, which are private academies.
Yay! Okay, so let's continue. In this part, we are going to tell you more about the process once you got your documents and everything, and then the interview. The interview, we're going to be sharing interview tips and also questions that we will ask. Okay.
Yes. And some of the questions that you must also ask your interviewer. Yes, it's very important to ask questions.
Okay. So if you are interested, stay tuned. Okay,
yes.
Let's start with you. Okay, the process, how does it go with Hagwon?
Okay, so I'm gonna speak on what I did, which was to apply through a recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
A recruiter, yes. So with this route, you have to process all of your documents first. You have to wait until all of your documents are processed as well as apostilled, and you must have them at hand before you contact your recruiter, because the Hagwon process is that quick. So once you have all of your documents at hand, then you will find a recruiter. I'm gonna ask Bungiwe to link my recruiter. I use Planet People to apply for a job here. So I basically emailed Planet People, and then I told them that all of my documents are processed and ready, and I would like to apply for a job. And they can do one of two things. So they can ask you to send proof of all of your documents. So you will have to take pictures and email those pictures to them so they can verify that all of your documents are indeed at hand and they are processed. Or they can ask you to send them a picture of yourself as well as your CV. And there's a specific way of doing a CV if you are applying for a job here in South Korea. Bungiwe will also link that somewhere here, my template for my CV. They will look at that, and then if they like you, or maybe they feel like you are a good candidate, then they will ask you to film an introduction video, which has to be 1 to 2 minutes. So you're basically talking about your qualifications, if you have any experience teaching, or maybe working with kids or volunteering, and just basically talking about the type of person that you are and why you want to get a job in South Korea. And that's the video that will be used when they are finding new schools, because schools want to see what type of person you are. Okay, so in that video you must smile, you must speak slowly, you mustn't speak fast, you must show your teeth, guys, you must smile. You must definitely smile. Okay.
Be warm and kind.
Yes,
that's
yes,
the key.
yes. So then it doesn't take long for the recruiter to find you a job. Okay, so they will also ask you, what kind of job are you looking for? Do you want to work with kindergarten? Do you want to work with elementary, middle school? So you have to be specific. You have to know the type of job that you want. If you're not sure, then I think just,
you can say I'm flexible,
yes,
right?
Yes, yes. Like you can say I'm flexible, any job. Okay, and then they will find you a school and set up an interview. So this is all, guys, like within a matter of days. I could say maybe 5 days.
Wow.
5 days, if maybe 10 days, if it's taking long, depending on the season that you're applying. Wow. Okay, and then you will get the interview.
And then we will get into the interview and the interview questions.
Yes.
Okay. But
yes,
before we get into that, let me say my process. Remember, I did my application via Kovia, and unlike Tandega, this takes months. It's not as quick as Hagwons, it takes months. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember there's always an intake for EPIK. Remember that with Hagwons you can get taken anytime.
Yes,
right?
so Hagwons hire all year round.
Yes,
there's no
it's
specific
different.
Season. Yes,
that's different. With EPIK they have intake, so they have the spring intake and they have fall intake, so it's usually for August and February. So be mindful of that. And for those who want to apply, make sure that you can cover the February intake. Make sure you apply as soon as possible, okay? As soon as you can. So for that, you can still do your documents and all those things, because it takes like a long time to gather these documents, and the agency does understand. That's why I recommend you do it via the agency instead of doing with EPIK directly, you know. After the application form and everything, you don't have to do an introduction video, you don't have to send a CV. You just need to make sure that your application form is your essays and your lesson plan is good, and then there will come a time where they contact EPIK to have an interview with you. Oh, okay, this is where it gets juicy, okay? This is where it gets juicy. So how was your interview? Tell us.
Okay, so I did 2 interviews with 2 different schools. The first one, I felt like it was way too easy. I was the one who was asking questions. So my interviewer basically introduced herself, and then she asked me a few questions about myself, and then she told me about the school and asked me to ask her questions. So that's why it's so important to prepare questions. Maybe prepare about 10 to 20 questions, because you might be faced with a similar situation as me. Okay, so with the second school that I was interviewed by, it was more so like a conversation, okay, because we spoke about my primary school, we spoke about high school, and we also spoke about my university. Now the trick is, if the interview is that chilled, okay, you must be very strategic when you are answering your questions, because you might end up throwing yourself under the bus. You might end up saying too much and saying things that are not necessary. Okay, so when they're asking you questions about maybe about your varsity, say things which are positive. Say talk about how you got good grades. Talk about your learning methods. Like just be strategic about your questions. But it was very chill. So with the Hagwon, they just want to see you being vibrant. So you have to smile, you have to nod. And also, if you don't understand what the recruiter is saying, because obviously there is a bit of a language barrier, and in terms of accent, it might not be something that you're used to hearing. So some words might not be as clear. So you must ask questions just to avoid answering incorrectly,
saying the wrong thing or stumbling a lot.
Yes, or stumbling. But it was a very chilled interview. I wouldn't even lie. It was very chilled. Oh, and one thing that I have to note, just put out there, is that with the Hagwon route, if the school likes you, they will literally let you know soon after the interview that you got the job. Like that's how quick the process is. There is no waiting period. If they like you, they might maybe hint during the interview that, you know what, we like you. And also, if you are answering questions, answer as though you are already hired. Answer as though you are already working at the school, so that they can see that you really want the job. Don't hire as though you are trying to convince them. Okay,
that's a great tip. That's actually a great tip. Yeah, okay, let's go to the EPIK interview. Well, with the EPIK interview, once you finish your application form and everything, the agency, which is Kovia, would let EPIK know, okay, that you are ready, and then they'll set up an interview. Okay, you can choose a date. But I think that date has to be within a span of like a week or something. So you have to choose a date and then choose a time, and try to not change that time. It's fine if they change it, but do not change it. So if you change it, if you choose a date, be sure that you're going to be available on that date and on that time. And please be aware of the time difference. Okay, so South Africa is 7 hours behind South Korea.
Yeah,
so you have to make sure that you are aware of that and choose the time that is available, because sometimes you'll be like choosing an interview at like 2 a.m. in the morning. So make sure you prepare yourself. If you choose that time slot, you have your ring light on, you have like it's clear, your face is clear, you are dressed appropriately, you look presentable
as well.
Your background must be nice, you look presentable. You don't have to be too formal like shirt and tie and a formal dress. No, just look presentable, okay? You don't have to do a full face of makeup as well, but just do a little something to show that you tried, that you are trying, okay? So with my interview, after I finished my application process, I think they set up the interview for me. Make sure your internet is also stable.
Yes, and also because in SA right now there is load shedding, they will ask you to check for times when load shedding won't be happening, just so that you don't have problems during your interview.
For me, I would say they don't say check. For me, I would say you must make sure that you choose a time that there's no load shedding. If you do or you're not aware, just make sure that you have that UPS or whatever.
Yes.
So that if load shedding hits, like it can still still back you up. So with my interview, I was interviewed by a lady. She was not dressed formally or anything. She was an EPIK representative. So she just looked in Jane like, but she was serious but not serious at the same time. I think she was trying to be like professional, but she was not like too like, this question. No, she was very like engaging.
Yes, friendly. They're very friendly. Too friendly.
For me, then she wasn't friendly, but I don't know why she wasn't that friendly, but she was just engaging. So I'm gonna give you the questions they asked, and not all of them, the ones I remember. She first, one more tip, make sure you have your application form in your hand, because they're gonna ask you things that you wrote, okay? So on your essays and on your lesson plan. So make sure you have your application on your hand so you can just, flip through and just remember and try to not memorize, but try to just remember what you wrote, okay? So they usually ask like, okay, why do you want to come to South Korea? Or how you're gonna deal with the cultural diversity or cultural change, and
conflict between
co-teachers
you and your co-teacher.
Yeah, how would you deal with that? How would you deal with like naughty students and things like that? So those things must be always sharp in your mind, like how to answer that, okay? And she went on to ask me a lot about my teaching experience, because I have teaching experience abroad. So she asked me like, why did I choose to leave China, and why am I interested in South Korea, and what are the techniques that I used in the classroom when I was teaching in China. And she also asked me, do I know what EPIK stands for? Guys, you must don't take that lightly, okay? I took that lightly. Do not take that lightly.
What did you say?
Okay. Luckily, I knew what it stands for that time. She also asked me, do I know when it started? That I didn't know. That I didn't know, guys. So like, she asked like, do you know why it was started and when it was started? And you know what? If you don't know the answer to a question, do not try and guess.
Yes, just be honest.
Just be honest that
yes.
Sorry, I am not aware, and that is what it is. Like you might lose some points, but that doesn't mean you flop the interview.
Yes.
Okay. So I told her that like I do not know. So maybe if you're planning to come here, please do your research on like Korea and like the recent things that are happening in Korea. Maybe they might ask you about them, just to like assess how much like about Korea and things like that. So that's how my interview went. And the last part of the interview, I had to do a demo lesson. And of course, in the application form, you have to do a lesson plan. But she gave me a topic. She gave me a topic on the spot, and I had to do a demo according to what she told me. She said like, if you are teaching about weather, like how would you teach? For me, this was not that difficult. I don't want to lie, because I'm used to teaching that. So like I did the strategies that I used to do when I was teaching in China, TPR, repetition and things like that. But I think I was like too repetitive, because I used to teach young kids in China. So make sure that it suits the level you want to teach, okay? So be prepared to be asked to do a demo lesson, okay? Just be on your toes and make sure that you know you are ready for that. So that was the interview for me. Is there anything you would like to add with the Hagwon?
I would like to add about the time, because you also mentioned about the interview time. Make sure that you choose a time that is early, Central African time. So maybe you can choose between the earliest though, maybe from 7 until 9, because then your mind is still fresh and you know, like you can answer very, very well. I also wanted to share some of the questions that I had asked. Like I said, that you have to prepare maybe 10 to 20 questions.
That's
because,
a lot.
Yeah, because now you are not sure what type of interviewer you are going to get. Okay, so you must just prepare questions. So I asked about my duties in class. The second question was how much prep time do I get, as well as how much free time do I get in between lessons. I also asked about my duties outside of the working hours that I'm going to be working, and if I'm going to be compensated for any overtime. I also asked about how big my class would be. And then another question was how often does the school schedule change? That's also quite important to note, okay? And then another thing is, yeah, I think those were the only questions that I asked. Oh yes, and then I also asked about lunchtime. It's very, very important, guys. Ask about lunchtime. Are you going to have to, or do you have to spend your lunchtime with the kids, or you can take that hour to yourself? Yeah, so
okay, that's important, because in Hagwon sometimes you have to, if you're a homeroom teacher, you have to stay with the kids.
Yes,
right?
yes, you have to spend time with the kids, but I don't, because I teach middle school. So I don't.
Okay. Like in closing for me, I don't wanna lie, I did not ask any question. She did give me like a position to ask, like, do you wanna ask something? But I did not, because most of the things are highlighted in the EPIK like package. So I just did not want to be repetitive with the questions.
Yes.
Like in closing, you just like smile and say thank you for the opportunity, and that was that. And then there's just like a time period. I think for me, it was like a week where they get back to you. How long did it take for you?
I was told an hour after my interview.
Oh!
I got the job. Like,
oh my gosh, that is how quick Hagwons are.
That the Hagwon process is so quick. If the school likes you, they don't waste time. They will tell you soon after you interview, because they know that competition is high. And if they let you go, you might just find another school. Okay guys, that is it for the interview. I hope you gained some tips, okay, on how to do it. And I hope our explanation was sufficient. If you have more questions, you can drop them down in the comment section and ask. Like after this interview process and getting your response, we are going to talk about how now to transition from coming from SA to South Korea. Okay, and that will be in the next video, so you have to stay tuned for part 3. See you guys. Mwah.